Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. We're actually in a new location today, aren't we?
We are. We've upgraded from your apartment.
Yes.
We've gone big time now. We've got a little studio.
Yeah, and we're here with Podcaster, and they've greatly welcomed us into this place, and it's great. I mean, it's a maze to find with all the doors that are here, but it's a good place.
It's actually in a BBC place.
Yeah, exactly.
So we walk past like just like in our shorts, like baggy t-shirts, and everyone's all suited and booted, and we're like, we're here for a podcast. And but yeah, everyone's pretty sound. So yeah, coming back in with a proper episode of our podcast, which we yet to be named.
Yes, which we'll keep unnamed because we don't actually have a clue. We've been floating some ideas, but we're not going to go down that route just now. Just actually get some views and put it up and see what happens.
We'll find as we go.
Yeah, absolutely. So Zlatan has been plastered all over Instagram and YouTube in the last couple of days, looking absolutely shredded. And we were speaking about it and speaking about how people will look at that and go, oh, fucking hell, it looks mental. And then we were on the conversation of the good old Thor. So let's talk about this, because it's really important that people know that some things that actors do and footballers and all that type of stuff, there is got a specific reason why they're doing their particular things. And a lot of people will have their aspiration of looking a certain way, and we will need to create that idea of what is realistic. Because, you know, when I was a personal trainer, first thing that guys, corporate dudes, mid-30s, 2 kids, been on the booze every single weekend for the last 10 years, would come in and say, hey, I want to look like Brad Pitt from Fight Club. And you're like, well, fuck me, I've got a hard job, you know.
That's not an easy role to get to, mate.
No.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think a lot of people just tend to inspire to be like who they see on the big screen.
Yeah.
And they get caught up in whatever Hugh Jackman's workout is.
Mm-hmm.
They follow word for word like what they would probably read on the website about Hugh Jackman's deadlift routine or Hugh Jackman's nutrition. Yeah. And they get deflated when they don't see that, because it's unrealistic expectations of trying to get their physique to look like someone else's physique when they should be unlocking their own potential physique.
Yeah.
And I think people get very, very just like caught in that little vicious circle. Yeah. But when it should be, like we've always said, you unlock your own physique, you don't unlock the next person's physique. Yeah,
you always have to look at yourself. And don't get me wrong, it's really important to look at other people and go, I would aspire to be like that. But actually what you should aspire to is not what they look like, but their actions that led them towards that particular thing. So we break down Zlatan, and like, he's always been a true professional. Whether you like his personality or not, he is a very, very good professional football player. He shows up, he plays for multiple teams, he's renowned as a hard worker, he's in incredible shape. And to be in that position, you've got to do a multitude of things to do that. Obviously, they've got the exercise covered because they're footballers, they kick a football around every single day. But you've got to have good nutrition, otherwise he'd end up just looking like Paul Gascoigne. You know,
what legend Paul Gascoigne was.
Yeah, amazing. But obviously a little tubby dude, or Wayne Rooney, right? Like they weren't in the shape that he's in, but he takes that seriously because of what he has to do. So there's multiple things that you have to do to get in those particular facets of shape. Same as if you want to grow a business, you've got to do certain things. If you want to grow your YouTube, you've got to do certain things to get there. And it's the same with being in shape at a particular body weight or a level of muscle mass. You have to do a process that leads to those results. So someone like Zlatan, no doubt most people could get a body like that in terms of the level of leanness, but whether you'd have the muscle tissue, whether you'd have the abs set the way that he does, it's totally genetic and muscularity dependent. If you've not lifted a weight in 10 years and you're chasing someone that looks like they've got a lot of muscle, you're probably setting yourself up for a bit of failure.
100%. And I think one thing that people do forget about is that is their full-time job.
Yes. Like,
we all know footballers are very, very well paid.
Yeah.
Imagine you giving a gym pop client who's never really been in the gym, inspires to look like Hugh Jackman, has works like a huge 9 to 5, massive commute, family life, everything going on. Give them 100,000 probably every week to go and get in shape, and I guarantee they'll do it.
Yeah,
because it's a bit more pressure behind them.
Yes.
And it's that, like, if you're getting paid to do something, people tend to do it.
Yeah.
So I think it's a huge thing to inspire to be like people, but inspire to be like your own version.
Yeah.
So for example, like, we both watched the new Thor film and we're like, oh, fuck me, like, he's in ridiculous shape. But again, he has a certain deadline to get in shape by that time.
Yeah.
So without having that deadline, without having that urgency, without being paid to go do it, his whole routine was based around looking absolutely amazing to be in that Thor film and look like better than what Zeus would have been.
Yeah.
So I think that's one key thing that people kind of need to take into account whenever they aspire to be like their movie idols, is it's their full-time role. They're getting paid to do it, and they probably have the best support system for that. They've probably got the nutritionist, a personal trainer, everything's taken care of. All they need to do is kind of show up.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that people tend to forget.
Yeah, and there's so many elements to that to break down. Like, we want to break it from a pyramid perspective. So at the top tier, there will be things that Thor, Hugh Jackman, to gain 10 kilos, 15 kilos, 20 kilos of muscle tissue, you have to, in that period of time, you will be inevitably using anabolic steroids. It's actually worth your cost. It's worth the risk for you at that moment in time to look a certain way. If your job description was to look like an absolute hunk, but you weren't a hunk, you'd have to do what you needed to do to get to that. And the most efficient way, most effective way is anabolic steroids. Juicing. And like part of it myself, being a bodybuilder, being part of that community, it's really effective. Like, it's really effective. But at the same time is that someone can't look at me and go, oh, I want your physique. If they're, they haven't trained before, they've not done 10 years of lifting, that's really hard for people to look at. So you look at that top tier and you look at, okay, cool. That's something that most people were not willing to do, shouldn't do, health complications, all that type of stuff. But all the other things that he had to do, he's put himself in the most optimal environment, and we can definitely learn from that. Like, time-specific goals. If you've got 12 weeks to get into shape, otherwise you don't do a movie, I'm betting your ass that you'll haul yourself through that nutrition, and maybe you won't go on off-plan meal, you won't go and have a pizza on a Thursday. You're probably going to stick to your nutrition, maybe, if you've got a whole film riding on your ability to look a certain way, as well as that the support network. As finances go up in some shape or form, your ability to have access to personal trainers, nutritionists, people that are going to sit by you every single day, meal prep companies, on the road, on the travel, still in order, assistants that'll bring you that type of thing. That's the top tier of basically being hand-fed food. Yeah. Whereas you won't be in the same scenario as that, but you can learn a few things from it, which is you can make your own version of that. So if you're not Thor and you don't have inevitable money, you're just in that situation where you're normal and you're putting a bit of money away to save, or you're putting that towards coaching, or you're putting that towards a gym membership, you might have the ability to prep your own food that guarantees that you fill that void. You might have the ability to go to the gym instead of getting a personal trainer to do that. You might have the ability to, go to sleep on time and do all the things that he probably does, just in different effort levels. He will be effortless to get into that situation. You will have to have effort to get to the same scenario because what of his means that he's got to get there.
Yeah, literally bang on. Like, imagine you trying to do XYZ that Thor or Chris Hemsworth does without having that backing support system. It's just going to be you're going to fall off track straight away. It's never going to be sustainable. It's never going to be financially committable. Yeah. And I think when a Gen Pop client looks at that kind of stage, they need to take it as inspiration, like you said, but make it their own path. Yeah. So, like you said, instead of having a meal prep company, can you go prep your own meals? Can you block out your time for the gym? Do you need a personal trainer? Yeah. Are you quite capable in the gym? Do you just need someone to hold you accountable for it? Yeah. Like, those small things will start building over time till you get to your dream physique. It won't be Thor's physique, but it'll be your physique, like your own potential physique. Yeah. And the whole thing, like you said about deadlines, it just comes like so freaking important. One of the things that we probably both have in Autonomy and Beyond is deadlines for clients. And the reason we have deadlines and beyond, it just creates that urgency, that little bit of pressure to get from A to B. And it gives us the green light to continuously enhance the aggression we have towards that certain client, because they have a certain goal. If you want to drop 20 kilograms for your wedding, or if you want to go to catch a flight to Dubai with the girls and feel freaking confident in your physique, you need to keep turning up the heat. Like, do everything in your power as a coach to make sure that when that client does go to that said deadline goal, they're feeling freaking awesome.
Yeah, 100%. And I think another layer to a deadline is urgency, and then the sacrifice that goes with urgency. Is that there's this ratio between like urgency and how much we do. It's Parkinson's law. It's like something will take a time. Something will take. I butchered this. Something will take as long as you give it, effectively. So if you give a task 2 hours to do, it'll take 2 hours to do. If you give a task 30 minutes to do, it'll take 30 minutes. If you give a task 12 weeks instead of 52 weeks, you'll be able to do it in that time frame. What it does is it creates that urgency, and it makes you do things in a shorter space of time. The decisions that you make will compound, and instead of being like, oh, next week I'll be better, it forces you to act now. It forces you to do the thing, what you needed to do at that moment in time. So instead of, taking that day on a Friday where you eat a bit more than you should do, or you say yes to too many things in foods and drinks, you actually say, no, actually I've got 4 weeks left on this particular thing I'm doing. I'm ready to commit to it, and I'm going to sacrifice to it. And that creates, and this is the big if you want that goal enough, if you are super high valued emotionally, you're bought into it, you will do it. And you will make something happen. It might not be the most perfect scenario, but you'll make something happen as opposed to putting it off to next week. And that's what the deadline provokes. And then it puts you in that scenario where it's sink or swim to some degree. And some people will actually sink because they realize that their goal that they had wasn't strong enough for them to kind of weather the social events, give up the alcohol for 10 beers instead of 5, to give up the pizza and have something more moderate. It just shows them in that situation that goal is not as valuable as the social event, and that's okay, that's perfect. You just have to be aware of that, and that's what the deadlines, the scarcity, the urgency create. It's like if you're in, it promotes it, but if you're out, it actually makes you less wanting to do those particular things.
If we need to clip that, that's a nice TED Talk about deadlines.
Always, every single time we talk about deadlines, it's TED Talk.
Oh, it's huge though, isn't it? Like, so, but this is the thing, if you don't have that certain deadline, if you don't have that certain wedding, holiday, or maybe even like your birthday, create one.
Yeah.
And something that we do quite religiously is have photo shoots. Yeah. Like we create our own deadlines for our own clients to give them that bit of pressure and urgency to go and achieve everything they can do in that short space of time. And you're more adherent towards anything you do when you have a certain task with a certain deadline, because on the back of it, there's a pressure behind it. You know it's got a stop date. You know when you hit that end date, there's going to be a next phase of the goals which won't be as demanding. Mm-hmm. So you tend to 9 times out of 10 put all the effort into towards that certain goal, that certain deadline you have to get the best result possible. And the reason why we probably both do photo shoots is to showcase that. Like we've had clients who've dropped 20, 30, 40, 50 kilograms of body fat. What's next for them? Yeah. Why not do something that they've never even thought about doing beforehand? Like, why not showcase them in front of a camera with them thinking that 10 months ago, there's no way in hell I would ever thought about doing this. And that's why for me, like photo shoots have always been so powerful for clients. The photo shoot and the deadline, the urgency and the sacrifice all combines into that one complex. Mm-hmm. And it just, for me, it's always knocked out of the water.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think the element of the urgency and the scarcities and the deadlines are really important. And then what people will probably be asking or thinking in the back of their mind, well, I can't have a deadline forever. I can't have a deadline for the next 20 years. So what do you do following that photo shoot, that date, to keep people in the same mindset of doing the things that they want to do?
Yeah. 100%. Oh, mate, I didn't even get the question. I was just thinking about something else then. I was going off topic. What was the question again?
The question was, what would you do after an urgency and a deadline to keep people in the game, in the zone for the next 20 years?
Post photo shoot, the lifestyle. Yeah. It's all about the lifestyle off afterwards. So you've hit that certain goal, you feel freaking amazing. What's the afterthought? Because you can't stay in that same aggressive diet. You need to have a bit of a reverse about it to make sure that you can maintain that result long term. Yeah. And that's when the whole lifestyle complex comes in. Like we call it after the photo shoot, we call it beyond, because we don't want our clients to be with us for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. We want them to make sure they got the knowledge and the power to maintain those results long term. So they can go about, and if they ever see themselves regressing, they know exactly what to do to get back onto that progress. Yeah. And it's just that the biggest thing is making it a lifestyle, making it part of your day to day, and you'll never have to worry about regressing.
Yeah, exactly. I think for me, once you've done the deadline and you've achieved that goal, your goal with any type of fitness and health goal, if you are not part of the industry and you are not part of a bigger goal. So for example, you've hit your 55 kilos, you've got a 6-pack, whatever you really desired. There's nothing more for you. You don't really care about building muscle. You don't really care about getting stronger. It's not really your bag. Like most people, like they do it for a specific goal and that was really it. They go to the gym to get in shape. Once they're in shape, those things don't matter as much. And that's okay if they don't. My thing is, okay, well, how do we get you to do the most with the minimum amount of effort? So how do we seamlessly transition into your lifestyle? How do we seamlessly transition it into your routine, your structure, to make the easiest possible solution with the minimum amount of effort? Because if you find the thing with the most limited amount of friction, there's no friction to you doing it. There's no friction to you making a good decision or eating good foods or, going out for dinner, having a nice meal. If there's no friction towards that and it's easy, you don't have to use the willpower, the motivation. You don't have to grind the way that you ground during a diet. You don't have to say no to things all of the time if you know when to say yes. Mm-hmm. And that's make it as easy as possible, make it as frictionless as possible, and seamlessly build it into that lifestyle so that you can inevitably stay in shape without this high line effort, high line target, motivation, discipline, there are periods that will waver, they'll come and go, but you should still be able to stay constant through those if the lifestyle is set up in the right manner.
Yeah. No, literally bang on. Could not agree more. And and then this is the whole thing from it. It's no one's meant to have a coach for years and years and years and years.
Yeah.
I mean, awesome, great if you love that experience working with that coach. But if you've accomplished your goal, so you've dropped to the dream body fat mountain levels, and then on the back of it as well, that you're feeling confident in your physique, and what is next? You know how to maintain it. You know how to say yes. You know how to say no to certain things. Then why would you need a coach? And that's one of the biggest things that kind of like, when we have clients leave the coaching, they kind of feel sad, but sad but happy. And the best way I've always phrased it's like a breakup. It's like, because you've gone on such an amazing journey with that person, they've lost 10, 15, 50 kilograms of body fat. They probably had a photo shoot. They've now gone to that phase after the photo shoot of now knowing how to maintain it for the rest of their life. What's next? Nothing. Well, you're good to go. You've accomplished your goal. And that's one thing that Autonomy has as well. Like, you happily kick clients out once they've achieved X. Same with Beyond. Like, once you've achieved X, unless you want to go again, we're more than happy to go, because we're fully confident that you'll never have to come back. You'll never call us up after 2, 3, 4 years down the line and be like, Jake, man, went to Jamaica, had way too much jerk chicken, put way too much weight on. That's never going to happen. Like, I think 2 years into the online coaching now, never had any clients come back because they've regressed.
I think the biggest thing for me when it comes to that long-term thing, I break it down like this. You have a Spanish teacher to teach you Spanish. When you've learned to the level that you need to learn, you don't need that Spanish teacher anymore unless you want to learn further. If you're an Olympic level runner, when you don't become an Olympic level runner, you're not going to stay with the same coach, because that was designed for that particular thing. If you want to learn how to cook and you go to a chef to learn 5 to 10 dishes, they teach you those 5 to 10 dishes, and unless you want to learn the next 10, you don't need to stay with that person, because you're not going to do those 5, 10 dishes over and over again when you know how to make them perfectly. And coaching became a commodity, and it became a marketing and a thing to make a lot of revenue from. We're sitting in Dubai, we live in Dubai, we both live out here, it's going okay, It's like, but at the same time is that the nature of a recurring business model creates the want for people to stay longer. And I was in one previously that basically meant that, why are we not keeping people 3 years? Why are we not keeping people 4 years? And I'm sitting in the back of the room going, because they don't need me. But that's not a good business talk. That's not like, that means you lose clients. And that's not good for someone's mortgage or someone's house or someone's business when they've got revenue to work for, if that's your business model. So, you should not think like you need a coach forever. You should think you need a coach to attain a specific skill. If I wanted to learn about how to do podcasting, I would come here and ask the podcaster. And I would be like, okay, dude, tell me what you need to know. But then when I can make a podcast, I'm going. I'll get my own lights. I'll buy the exact same stuff we've got here, and I'll take it in my back garden. But the thing is that that's what you learn, a skill. But because we're coaching, then this is going down a totally different topic, but whatever. This is just how we do things. Is that because there's a relationship involved and there's a fear-based metric when it comes to you've achieved something you've never achieved before, you have a fearful nature of going backwards. And that's totally normal. If you don't have that, then you'd probably gain 20 kilos straight away, because you need a little bit of fear to go, I don't want to go back to that place where I was before. And that fear can often be attached to the relationship between a client and a coach. And if the client is not they're not the hero of their own journey. So they're not the person where they're like, I did this, I did that. They're like, oh, my coach set me this plan, I tried my best, and look at how I look. They're giving the coach the flowers. Whereas actually the client needs to be the hero of the journey. The client did all the work. We just give them the plans, which, like, if you have a really good plan and really shit execution, you'll get really shit results. If you have a really crap plan, but you have really good execution, you're still going to get great results. So the plans, we're important, but we're not as important as you. But that fear of the coach is what's keeping me in this shape is why coaches then stay for 2, 3, 4 years to do stuff, because they're holding on to the fear that if I leave, I'm going to regress. But actually, the autonomy of someone is more important, and their own choices, their own decisions. They are the hero. They are the person that makes and lays their own bed. They're the person that, makes the food, eats the food, makes their own decisions. And that's what you get. That's what we give people. Beyond and autonomy, give people the ability to make their own decisions. And when the final step of when you, and this is when you really understand coaching, is that when you take, and as a client, you'll never see this, you won't understand this, but as a coach, when you take the step to move away from the client's life, you know you're giving them the actual best gift that you could give them, which is they have to now stand on their own 2 feet. Yeah. And if all the information that you've given them is dog shit, then they'll gain all the weight back. If they've understood, they've gone through the process, they've took their own steps, and they can stand on their own 2 feet, it's the most rewarding thing for us, but it's actually the most rewarding thing for you, because you never need us again. And you never need that help again. Because if the coaching process is good and the education you have is solid and you understand moderation, boundaries, limitations, adaptions, being adaptable, being like ability to recognize change and recourse correct. If you can do all those things, you're going to be in a really good spot. But what do you think? What do you do with Beyond at the end of their journey to prep them for taking a step away?
So we kind of use our photo shoots like a graduation. Like after the graduation, you've been probably the most aggressive dieted you probably ever will be. You've probably feel the most confident you ever will be. You've probably done something that steps massively out your comfort zone. And then what happens next? Like we do have the phase is literally called Beyond, because that's when we literally reverse diet you. We make sure you have the knowledge on what you're doing day to day to never step backwards from the result. Don't be wrong, probably never be back in photo shoot shape unless you got back on the bandwagon. But on the back of it is that you don't need to be. You've done it. Yeah. You've ticked the boxes. Like you've been the most confident version you've ever done. There's nothing really much more for you, unless it is a muscle building phase or some other phase they want to go through, or just enjoy the coaching that they don't want to stop. It's making sure that when any client comes in the business, at the very start of their journey, they know that it's not going to be for 2, 3, 4 years. They know that there is going to be an end date. Like once we've achieved the goal, you're good to go by yourself. Because for us, like, and this is probably a bit more for coaches, you should be just showcasing to your clients how to maintain it after the fact. After they've made that incredible transformation, they should have the knowledge and the power to go and maintain that all by themselves. And that's one thing that I massively learned from personal training, coming into online coaching with personal training, is that I never had that. I never had that experience. Clients kept coming in for 2, 3 years at a time, because at that time, all I knew was the session and that's it. Yeah. Then step into online coaching, the accountability, the nutrition, everything goes behind online coaching, so much more powerful. It's more of a bulletproof plan to get someone from A to B and push them into C, and C is going to be, they're on their own, but they're on their own comfortably. They never have to worry about the foods they're watching or the foods they're eating. If they ever do regress, they know exactly what to do to get back on the bandwagon and progress again without going and getting another coach or going back to the coaching. Yeah. So with our last phase, it's called Beyond. And the whole goal is, within the space of maybe like 2 to 3 months, reverse diet you, get you in a sustainable rhythm, and make sure that's part of your lifestyle. And then you never have to worry about stepping back.
Mm-hmm. If you can't do the things that you're doing today for the next 20 years in that phase, it's not the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Now the things will change over time. Like you will have to adapt. You will have to change your routines. Yeah. Well, the methods that you eat. Like I know mums that have gone from not being mums to now having kids of 2, and they're coaching them through the whole process, because that was back in the day, and they choose to come back if they want to. Like I give people the option: you've got autonomy, but you still want coaching. Yeah, I've got to have a kid, so I want some support. Okay, fine, cool. Second kid comes around. Okay, cool. And then basically she went from every day making food on her own. The baby comes along, kids. Now she's meal prepping. Now she's doing more structure throughout the week. As you get more time poor, you have to do different things. So as time goes down, your strategies have to go up. As your stress goes up, strategy has to go up too. As social events increases, your ability to adapt to that strategy then also increases. So you're never going to be consistently, like there's nothing that's, it doesn't pause in time. It is not the same thing every single day for the next 20 years. But the fundamental mindset, the psychology behind it of like, oh, okay, problem solving. Okay, well, that doesn't work right now. What will? And that's what you teach. That's what you teach, that whole thing of, okay, if this isn't working, then what's another alternative? And then you bring your toolbox out, you get your little hammer out, you get your little wedge out, you get your little screwdriver, and then you find shit that'll stick in the door, something that will stay for a period of time. Then when that's open, that door's closed, move on, get a different tool, you move on. And that's super, super important, because it's mostly... People think it's the accountability and people think it's the support that makes a long-term journey. It's actually you being able to ask yourself, hey, why am I doing what I'm doing? Can I change what I'm doing? Is there a better alternative? Does something buy me back more time? Can I actually, be better with this? Or am I burying my head in the sand because I've gained a bit of weight and do I not want to know about it? And we'll do a whole podcast about the fundamentals of staying in shape. But, they're just like the real keys about that long-term journey, is that you need to step on your own 2 feet.
It's that big question though. Like, what did you actually learn? Like, what did you learn from the process?
Yeah.
Because whatever you learn that's going to be with you long term.
Yeah.
And mate, 100%. I think that is another podcast altogether.
Yeah, absolutely.
Never into it. But one thing that you touched about Dubai, and it kind of correlates to everything we just said. And I think the biggest reason we are able to live in Dubai, now don't get me wrong, we're not wealthy. Like, we're literally just like Zara. Yeah. We're Zara in a symbol. And one thing that probably allowed us actually to move out here to Dubai is because Beyond Autonomy do get awesome results. And that's because we have the process, we've got the care of every client, and they have the trust in us to make sure that we can make sure they achieve that goal and live after the fact. And the whole thing is about the whole business model in terms of how does it make sense that you have clients leaving? But it does make sense, because they're leaving feeling freaking amazing and then just singing our praises because we did an awesome job with them. Yeah. And it just leads to more people wanting to achieve what that person has achieved. And that's kind of how the business model works, is like, we don't want to have clients for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. We want them to come through the coaching, have an awesome result, have a great freaking experience, and then just tell their friends about it so they can achieve the same.
Exactly. And we'll just leave it there. That's a good episode number 2.
That
so
is. In
short, Thor's on gear, Hugh Jackman's on gear, Zlatan shredded but not on gear, and that you should step on your own 2 feet when you don't need coaching forever, and you should step out on your own 2 feet.
100%. And by the next episode, we won't have a name.
We'll still be here.
Still won't have a name, but we'll still be in the same place. But yeah, thank you for listening, guys.
Yeah, like, subscribe, and comment if you want to have specific episodes, or you actually, you want to hear stuff from us as well.
Awesome.